are all about indicated, right? I mean, you don't have to be like a robot, you know, like, just show you that value. Your responses should illuminate how you fit the job description. And when I say illuminate, so I hired a lot of folks that provided customer service, and I never interviewed anyone ever that said, I am horrible at customer service. I run the customers off. Nobody says that. Everyone says, I'm great with customers. What you need to do is illuminate why. Because everyone before you, whether true or false, lied about it. So you need to come in and say, hey, I'm really good with customers, and this is why, blah, blah, blah. Illuminate. Put some light on it. Everyone prefers to work with someone that they like. Make a connection. Be personable. It's okay to laugh. You know, it's okay to have those funny things. And people like to work with people that are fun to be around. Last month, I gave an example. I gave these classes at the Czech conference last summer. And before I went there, I was at another conference. And anyways, long story short, I won't go into the whole story. There was a shoe shine at this conference I was at. And he was taking phone calls. He obviously owned the business. He was taking phone calls from his employees as he was shining my shoes. And I said, hey, I'm meeting with these young people. I'm going to give them this class. What do you look for when you hire folks? So this is Vincent. He owns Vincent Shoe Shines. He has a storefront. He's a shoe shine that has a storefront on 17th Street in downtown Denver. He's got chairs in Cherry Creek. He is a shoe shine that's done real well. I said, what do you look for when you hire folks? And he said, I look for people that move me. He didn't say it quite that way. He said, I look for folks that move me, or however he said it. But don't we all want to work with folks that move us, that are fun, that are interesting, that make us better, that if I'm sick, they want to cover me? When I'd have employees refer like a friend to work for us, one of my questions was always, if you're out sick, do you want this person to cover you? And sometimes I'd get an honest answer. Well, no. If you would just give them a call and just let them know I referred them, and they bring them in for an interview and then don't hire them. But that puts it in perspective, right? Do you want them covering you when you're on vacation? Yes or no? All right. I'm on all kinds of rabbit trails tonight. Okay. Guess what? The interviewer has a scheduled and limited amount of time for you. When time is up, you're done. So they have this time blocked out on their calendar. You might be yucking it up, feeling like this is going awesome, telling long, they'll ask one question, and you're telling a 20-minute answer, and it's fun. You got to realize he's on the clock, and when the time is up, the time is up. So I just say that just because you're going to be nervous and maybe chatty, if that's how you respond to stress. Don't get too chatty because you're on a limited amount of time. Both you and the interviewer need to use the time to see if there's a fit. Because the fact of the matter is, you're interviewing them too. Listen as much as you talk. Don't monopolize the time. You don't want to be the person that talks so much and the interviewer is just like, whatever. If they ever stop this answer, I'm going to just wrap this thing up. Okay, number 8, be prepared to answer interview questions. So you should be thinking about your answers to standard interview questions. What are some easy questions that you should be able to just nail? Here's one. Tell me about yourself. You should be able to answer that in 30 seconds. Not 20 minutes. Not, I was born short and bald and not much has changed. It's got to be something for 30 seconds-ish. Come on, Mrs. Olivado, you've heard me say that before, haven't you?
Have you ever given your answer to that?
Oh, every time. I often open with that, just for that very reason. The other thing, Here's a funny story, real quick. So we're going to talk about behavioral questions in a second. One of the behavioral questions at a company that I worked for, I used to love to ask, like, when you go interview for promotions, was, have you ever not gotten your way, and how did you handle it? And my response was, I'm married. I mean, like, pick a day. None of them laughed. They were all women, and none of them laughed. So for what it's worth, I don't know what the life lesson is in that one. I thought that was hilarious.
I think it's know your audience.
Yeah, know your audience. Know your audience.
Good job.
No, didn't get that job. All right. So, give some thought to some basic interview questions. We're going to talk about that. Restate, when you're asked a question in the interview, restate the question. You know, what do you think? You know, what are your strengths? My strengths are, right? Tell me of a time when you provided customer service. Well, I provided customer service in, you know, blah, blah, blah. Restate the question in your answer. Reinforce your value propositions as often as possible. What 3 unique things about you and why you should be hired. Don't just make statements. Everyone is saying the same things. I'll show up on time, I provide customer. Prove it. Make your statement and then prove it. And I'll give you an example. Just a second, Landon. I have an example on the bottom of page 7. Are you good with customer experience? Customer experience is kind of the new fad. Well, actually, it's like the 4 or 5 year ago fad for customer satisfaction. Then the cool thing was to say customer experience, which probably currently is probably out of vogue, but that's another fun thing you'll find in the workplace. Are you good with customer experience? Instead of saying, oh yeah, I'm the best, a better answer is to say, yes, I'm good with customers. For example, I work in children's check-in desk at church twice a month. I developed a quick check-in, you know, blah, 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 blah. Prove it, because they've heard all the lies before. Yes, Landon.
So I actually had an interview at Home Depot last week for a different position.
All right.
I didn't get it though, but so I guess my question is, when they ask you a question like, do you have experience in this area? Do you be honest and say no, or come up with another answer? Because,
you know, we are very fortunate. We get to watch this, witness how experts handle that every day on the news. Politicians are awesome at that, right? They have great responses. Oftentimes, it won't even be to the question, right? So we get to see that a lot. So one of the things you can do is, how are some of the different ways Landon, in this case, can handle that? You're asked about some experience that you don't have. But there's probably 4 or 5 different ways we can handle it.
Oh, one thing that I would say is, no, but I'm really looking forward to learn that, or no, but I've always wanted to learn that, if that's true.
Bam! Right? That sounds good, doesn't it? What's another way to handle it?
You can also say, no, I don't have experience doing that, but I do have experience in this similar thing.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that.
Wow!
And I'm good at that.
And all God's people said, she doesn't look that smart, but she is.
Well, I mean, if you're going for a position about, say, fixing a car, and you have absolutely no experience fixing a car, why are you even bothering going there?
Yeah, but there's always going to be things.
Yeah.
Especially right out of high school.
Right.
Yeah.
Like with anything.
So those are 2 great responses. One is, I don't have that experience, but I'd like to learn. The other is, I may not have done apples, but I have worked with oranges or whatever.
Fruits, right?
All right. Be able to answer basic questions within 30 seconds to 2 minutes. If somebody asks, what do you know about the company? You should be able to answer that because you did your research, right? Tell me about yourself. You should be able to tell them about yourself in 30 seconds to 2 minutes. And what should that, when you tell about yourself, what points should you be hitting?
Your 3 value propositions.
Yeah, things that add value to the company, right? Not just, I had this really neat vacation last year, and I went to San. I mean, you have a softball. You have up to 2 minutes to just tell them whatever you want. You know, so you can talk about, you know, I graduated #1 in my class.
Well,
I
you're
was
homeschooled.
You just don't mention that.
Top of my class, only child, homeschool.
That's actually not guaranteed for me or Abby.
Right. Dana and Autumn, I don't think they know the homeschool high five. We need to show them.
That is not any high five I've ever seen before in my whole life.
Jesus. Okay, what is your greatest strengths? If you're interviewing to unload trucks at Target, one of your strengths should not be you make the best cupcakes, right? Everything you answer is geared to the position. What are your weaknesses? So I spent 3 years in the staffing industry. And so what the company did that I worked for is we'd find companies that had needs, and then we'd find the skill sets to meet those needs. So I think we were supposed to interview 10, our quota was, we had to interview 10 people a week, so I did a lot of interviews there. So here's one of the tricks they taught us, is we'd say, what are your strengths? And people can rattle those off. I mean, we could spend all afternoon. What are your strengths? Oh, let me tell you all my strengths. What are your weaknesses? And they would name one, right? So they listed like 5 strengths, 1 weakness. So here's the thing that we were taught to do. Great, what else? They didn't have a plan for #2. And it got exciting because there was no plan, what they would say. And they would they'd come up with #2. You know, they'd squeak it out and we'd just be quiet and look at them. Like we're waiting for #3. And then it was like crazy time, you know. Well, I'm a raging alcoholic and I beat my wife. You know, so the moral of the story is have 3 weaknesses ready. Yes, Luke.
But is it are you still just supposed to list one, and then if you're asked for more, then you're supposed to have them prepared, or?
Just have them prepared.
Just don't listen.
Of weaknesses. So here's a question. Let's talk about this. What are some things that we can bring up as weaknesses? It's a weakness if you don't realize you have weakness in one thing, right?
You don't do well getting up in the morning. Early shifts would not be good.
Yeah,
Never on
possibly, yeah.
time.
What's that?
Never on time. How do you state weaknesses? Not saying you should say them or not.
Gang, I personally find a lot of value when you understand yourself and you can share some things. One of the things we all struggle with, me, all of us, is pride. You know, I am the best ever for this job. So one of the things I've always been impressed with is share your shortcomings, you know, of the job requisites. You know, what are you light on? You know, we used some examples earlier where you don't have that experience. Come clean. The elephant's in the room. Just come clean with it.
And Rick, you know, after you get to a certain level and you go for a manager job, I remember they asked me that one time, what are your weaknesses? And I said, well, I have a few, but I said the biggest one is probably a hard time letting go and not delegating and wanting to hover over, you know,
Right.
over everyone and say, oh, let me see, and not keeping the opportunity for other people to fail. So weakness is always wanting to do everything and not being able to delegate. But with this opportunity of me being a manager, I would love to work on that, blah, 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 right? So that's down the road.
Yep. And to that point is whatever weakness you give, explain how you're overcoming it, how you're compensating for it. So all of you have a weakness, you don't have work experience. So, that's one of the things you could say is, one of your weaknesses, the first thing out of your mouth, it should be, I don't have any work experience. I cut grass or, whatever you've done, I haven't worked for a Home Depot, Fortune 500 company before. So one of the things I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna, make sure I'm here on time. I'm gonna do the training materials, because all these companies are gonna put you through like online training or something. Be like, I wanna figure this stuff out, so I'm gonna pay extra attention, because what are your peers doing? They are not paying attention in the online safety training for Target or whatever, right? They're responding to texts while the online computer thing is going. Did I answer that? I kind of rambled all over. What are some other weaknesses that you can give?
Well, I gotta be careful with this one, but this is definitely one for myself, and that is responsibility. I know